All right, so you have gotten to the linear extension project. If you guys don't know me or recognize me, I am Mrs. Hanson. I am the 8th grade Hawk Team math teacher, and I'll be explaining the extension project to you today. So you guys have shown mastery in writing equations from tables and writing equations from graphs, and so now we're ready to kind of bring that to the next level, and we're going to do a pretty fun project today. What we're going to do in the next couple days is draw some pictures. We're going to draw some pictures with lines, and I'll remind you that lines by definition are straight. We're going to draw these pictures on graph paper, and we're going to do it a couple times, and I'm going to kind of go through that. The project's basically going to be comprised of 3 things, okay? And those 3 things is a pretty picture, a graph picture, and an equation sheet. And then you're going to present those 3 things in either just paper form, which is kind of the lower option, or you're going to present them in a Educreations video, which hopefully you've all talked about Educreations before. I'll be going over how to do that later in the video. Let's talk more specifically about each one of these 3 things that will be included in your project. The first one is the pretty picture. Okay, this is going to be on a full sheet of graph paper, okay, on a full sheet of graph paper, all straight lines. Again, a line by definition is straight, but I'll remind you that this should have no curves. It should be all straight lines. You need to be creative with your project. We got this project, or creative with your picture, we got this project from a class that we found online, and their pictures are all of animals. Their teacher required them to use animals. But you don't have to if you don't want to. If you want to make something else, you feel free to use your creativity and explain and kind of venture away from animals. Animals are cool though if you want to use those. So you just really need to use creativity. Your pretty picture needs to be colored, but basically it really just needs to be pretty. So that's kind of the first step, is drawing this pretty picture with just straight lines. Try to use lines that go at nice points, that kind of go from coordinate to coordinate, okay? Notice they don't really go down the middle of a line. They use the graph lines to make their picture, okay? The next thing is going to be your graph picture. This looks more mathematical just by looking at it. It's going to be an exact copy of your pretty picture on a separate sheet of graph paper. Okay, you're going to draw an X and Y axis down the middle of your drawing. So right down the middle here. And then you're going to highlight a couple things. There's going to be 8 lines that you're going to highlight. The requirement for those 8 lines are going to be 2 horizontal lines that have a 0 slope. So like here's their 0 slope horizontal lines. 2 vertical lines that have an undefined slope. Notice they have those 2 there. Looks like they're kind of color coordinating them. 2 lines with a positive slope, so there's a positive and there's a positive, and then 2 lines with a negative slope, negative, negative. Then what I want you to do is find coordinates, x comma y, of 2 points on each line. So notice here how they wrote out the coordinates of each of these, the ending points of each of these lines. That way it'll be better because eventually you're going to write equations for these. You can find your rise and run, all that jazz, okay? And so that's the graph picture. Much more mathematical, and tracing, it doesn't have to be colored. It doesn't have to be, it has to be neat, but it doesn't have to be pretty. That's what your pretty picture is for. This is more the math side of things, okay? And then you're going to do some work, obviously. So your equation sheet is where you're going to show that work. And the work that you're going to do is to write equations for each of these lines that you highlighted. All right, so you're going to write an equation for your horizontal line. So they're going to be y equals equations. You're going to write an equation for your vertical line. So it's going to be x equals equations. And then you're going to write equations for your positive and negative slope. Those are going to be y equals mx plus b lines. And notice you'll have to have a y-intercept on those. So try to choose lines that you can extend to the y-intercept. Okay, maybe if I was them, I would have chosen this line and this line because I know what the y-intercept is going to be. It's going to meet the line. But you can see how they kind of extended that line towards the y-intercept so that they could find their y-intercept. All right, so you'll have to do all 8 of those equations, 2, 4, 6, 8 equations on your equation sheet. And then once you have those 3 things, you really have the bulk of the project done. And it should be starting to look really cool. And the way you're going to share this, or the way we're going to assess it, let's talk about that first, is we're going to assess it on this rubric. We're going to, it's not going to go in the grade book, but we're going to take a look at your projects and we're going to say, you either did a superb job, you did the job, you tried the job, or you really didn't even try. And this rubric will be kind of what we use to do that. So take a look at it. We're also going to assess your neatness and your presentation. And notice that the superb and the you did it categories require you to use an EduCreations video. And so I'm going to go over how to use EduCreations right now. And to use that, you're going to use the iPads. And hopefully you've all used EduCreations before. I know you do some in 7th grade. I know all of my students have used it before. So hopefully this isn't new to you. Go ahead and search EduCreations on your iPad. And then what you can do here is you can take pictures of your pretty picture, your graph picture, and your equation sheet and put them on 3 separate pages. You can add pages right down here. Okay? And then you can hit record and then talk to me. Tell me about your pretty picture. Why did we choose this picture? Who drew it? You're working with a partner, obviously. Oh, which is, I forgot to mention, and I'll put it in there, both partners need to participate when drawing your pretty picture and your math picture. You can both draw both of them. You can one draw each of them, but everybody has to draw something. Okay, that's something I forgot to mention. But anyway, so then talk to me. Tell me about your pretty picture. Tell me about your mathematical picture, your graph picture. Tell us about your equations, how you did the work. Was the work correct in your mind? Did you check your work? All that kind of jazz, and make a nice little presentation out of it. If you don't like it, start over and try it again. When you're done and you like your presentation, click done, and then it will give you the option, do you want to save your lesson or start over? You want to save your lesson because it's a masterpiece and you've done it well by now. So save that lesson and then name it. Name it with your names and a title of your picture. Click next. And then make that video public so that I can see it. And then make it a mathematical one and all subjects. Don't really worry about that. You might have to log on, use your Google account to log on. I'm obviously already logged on. You might have to log off if somebody else is. Just be careful with that. And then we want to share it. So click on your video and then either share it here in email or click share in the middle there and click share with email. And then email that sucker to Megan Hansen at prairiepride.org. All right? And then after that, we'll get to see your project and it'll be really cool. And it's going to be really exciting. So I'm excited. Get at it.